So again, thank you guys for joining us. My name is Danny, and I do work for the PhotoBiz team. I do social media, and I also attend trade shows. So if you've been to WPPI, PPA, Blair's workshops, and local shows, you may have met me there. And today we're joined by Blair Phillips, and Blair is a photographer based out of North Carolina as well, just like PhotoBiz, and he's probably well known for everything he does and his incredibly good looks. Blair, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. Good deal. Good deal.
Awesome. So Blair's basically, I've had the chance, and it's been awesome to actually visit Blair's studio twice and see some of these props that he's put together. And you're just an awesome creative person, Blair, and I love what you've done. And you're going to show everybody today a bunch of different do-it-yourself prop ideas that aren't going to break the bank. And I'm really excited for all the different attendees who have joined us today, and I still see tons of people piling in. That's awesome. And I'm really excited because this is kind of the first webinar I've really seen this style where you're going, first look at what it takes to build these props. So everyone who's joined, thank you again, and you're in for a treat today, that's for sure.
Yeah, good deal.
Well, Blair, I'm just going to let everyone else know a couple things, and then we'll go ahead and let you get started. So first off, guys, in addition to getting the opportunity to learn from Blair, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so you'll be able to ask Blair some questions, and we'll have about 15 minutes to do so. You can also join the discussion online on Twitter using the hashtag PhotoBizLive. So if you want to tweet information you're learning or you have any other questions, just use hashtag PhotoBizLive. Also, if you have any difficulty throughout today's webinar hearing Blair or seeing his screen, please use the comment box to let me know directly. And we are going to be recording this webinar and placing it online on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/PhotoBiz. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Blair.
All right, sounds good, man. And as always, thank you to PhotoBiz for making us look so good. We've got several of our websites with PhotoBiz. They offer absolute, complete web solutions, and we would definitely not have the presence that we do without them. So if you know of anyone that has a website that's kind of struggling, please do them a favor. Turn them on to PhotoBiz, and obviously their life will change, business will change. And I just appreciate working with companies like PhotoBiz that actually give back to the photo community and to our industry. There's a lot of companies out there that just want our money, but they don't want to give back to the industry, and PhotoBiz is definitely one of the leaders when it comes to that. And as a photographer, and we really appreciate the job that you do to give back to the community. So thanks to you guys for putting all this stuff on. So, all right, this is one of those deals where I was talking with PhotoBiz a while back, and I said, you know what? Let's do something a little different this time. Let's do something I've never seen. Most people, whenever we attend webinars, it's all on technical things, technical photography or photography-related items that are just strictly about photography. And I said, I think what would be really, really helpful is to give them kind of a sneak peek or kind of a view inside of some set making, because everything I do is on a strict budget. Matter of fact, sometimes there is no budget. So in my area, I got so tired of hearing everybody say, well, we don't have that. I don't have that in my area. I don't have that here. I can't have that here. And I kind of found myself being one of those people, and I said, wait a minute. I've never accepted things for how they are, so why not just go out and make something happen on my own? I can sit around and talk about it forever, or I can get off my rear end and make something happen. So I'm going to share with you guys today just small ideas, and keep in mind a lot of this stuff, I'm not saying that you need to go and recreate it to the T just like I did, but it's just to give you an idea, so keep an open mind, and I think some of this will be really helpful. So I'm just going to jump right on in here and just tell you guys that even if you're not a super handy person, or maybe you're one of those guys that doesn't really have any tools, or maybe you're a lady that that doesn't have any tools or doesn't know how to use any tools. That's okay too. All of this stuff can be done. You can hire a local handyman for basically next to nothing. Bring them in, and they can throw this stuff together, because a lot of it doesn't have to be precision carpentry. That's word of the day, precision carpentry. We don't have to have all that, because I'm not a very I'm not a precision carpenter, but I can get a lot of stuff done. So one of the biggest things whenever I am building sets or building a prop or putting something together is organization. I always try to have everything that I'm going to need very organized right there at my fingertips, and when I'm done with it, I put it back where it goes. That's a lesson that my parents tried to teach me at a young age, and I fought them on. Now I realize the importance of that as I got a little bit older. So let's just take, for instance, not a household, but a commercial item like pallets. Okay, there was a plumbing shop that I used to work at. I used to do a lot of photography there. This guy was nice enough to let me bring clients there and photograph. He had a bunch of old junk laying around, and I was drawn to that. So I asked him one day, I said, you know what, can I have a bunch of those pallets? He said, well, yeah, what do you want them for? I said, I'm going to build something out of them. And he said, well, okay, whatever. He probably thought I was on some sort of medication or something. But I started collecting these things, and I drug them back to the studio, and I laid them out one day. I just had this epiphany. I actually got an idea from Urban Outfitters, which is a clothing store. They have a lot of neat and eccentric things. So I got these pallets. I laid them all out, and then I made me like just say like a triangular or a trifold backdrop area. I leaned it up against the fence, and I started with a backdrop piece right in the center, and then 2 pallets on either side, kind of at an angle. And what I did was I stood those things up, and I nailed them together. You can screw them together, you can tie them together, you can zip tie them together, use wire, whatever you need. But by doing this, by creating those angles, that will stand up on its own. You know, it doesn't want to fall backwards or forward. And then from there, I took a skill saw. And imagine just taking that pallet, laying it down on the ground, and cutting it across at an angle. And then flip it over and cut it across at the same angle. And then take that one piece right there that's on the bottom left-hand side, take that, bring it over, and nail that to that existing backdrop area that you just made. And just keep continuing that pattern, cutting them into pieces, cutting them into angles, and you're basically just stacking them on top of each other and nailing them to the pallets that are in the background. And then whenever you're finished with all that, you can go and pull in some other materials to put in the foreground that may go with it or might complement it, or maybe they don't even have to complement it. Maybe you want some stark contrast. But at this same location where I got all these pallets, this guy had these old, like, 55-gallon drums, and they were rusted, and the paint was faded, and I said, man, I've got to have some of those too. Well, this guy was reluctant enough and nice enough to say, sure, you can have those too. So what I'm going to show you here is a set that I put together that really didn't cost me anything other than the nails that I used and a little bit of sweat equity, or a little bit of sweat labor. So this is the finished set, and this is all free stuff that I got from this guy down here. It probably took me maybe 2 hours to create that. And what's really cool about this is I use this a lot whenever I have athletes come in, cheerleaders, people with prom dresses, engagement couples, maternities, babies. It's very universal, and it's its own unique style. So if you're looking for something really rustic and very unique, maybe this is an idea. Now in the summer, the grass grows up really tall, and I let it grow up really tall on purpose, and it makes for some interesting images. So as you can see, this is just one of the few sets I'm going to show you today that costs pennies on the dollar, and in just a couple of hours you can have a set there. One of the ideas that I had too, whenever I get tired of this, is I'm going to bring like a commercial spray painter up in here, and I am going to just get crazy and start painting all these wild colors. Maybe I can get another year or 2 out of it that way. And whenever I'm done with it, I will simply strike a match to it and just burn it and pick up the nails and start over again. So here's a few of the images that I've created with this set, and you can see a lot of the textures. See the grass growing up. You know, it's just something different, something unique. I can use it in different ways too. Like this is soft, using it with natural light. Little kid with a guitar just creates a backdrop for you versus just something that's flat. Gives a lot of dimension. Here I was talking about with these prom dresses and things. Very unique. Here's another use for pallets. All right, I was doing a workshop and got inspired by pallets as well. I was shooting this at a workshop up at our lab, H&H Color Lab in Kansas City, Missouri, and there's a lot of pallets there. Well, now I'm acclimated to using pallets. So I grabbed a few of them, throw some leaves down on there, whatever's available, and I've got a finished image that I've created out of absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So there's one of the ideas. Hopefully that'll get your juices flowing a little bit. So let's fast forward here. Let's check out another one. All right, now this one is a little on the weird side. You have to follow me here. Imagine if you walk outside and look on the roof of your house, there's going to be some white PVC pipe sticking up out of the roof. That's like a little gas vent, a little sewer vent, if you will. Now there's these little things called roof vent collars that go over top of that, and then your shingles go over top of that. So what I did here, it'll all make sense in a second. I took 4x4 posts and concreted them in the ground. I dug my holes about 3 feet deep, concreted them into the ground, and everything I do is based on at least a 10-foot width because I want to be able to shoot, families, large families, children, brides, anything I want to. I want to make all of my sets at least 10 foot wide. That way they're very universal. So I bury these in the ground, make sure they're all plumb and level, and I nailed the braces up, let them dry. It only took an hour for this concrete to dry. I used the fast setting concrete. Then I nail up some, let's see, let me go forward one here. Actually go back. These two beams that are running side to side, these are treated 2x4s, and I measure out to the distance of where I can nail these things to it, and I nailed these things up with little roofing nails. And just follow me here. If you keep repeating the pattern, I love the circular shape in these things, and I love the dimension. Whenever the sun hits them from different sides and the top, it creates shadows all the way around this thing. So fast forward, that's what it looks like. Now, to most people, they're like, what would you ever do with these things? But there again, I bought all these things. They were $1 a piece, so they were 25 cents a piece. And I have since gone on the far left-hand side and built another little wall that comes off at a 45-degree angle that's only 4 foot wide. And the sun, during the day, the sun sets back behind this thing. Now, what's really cool is whenever I'm posing people in front of there, and I'm using my off-camera lighting, and you have the rays of the sun, like sun flare, that's poking through some of those open holes. And I even thought, maybe it'd be pretty neat to go back behind there and just put up some plywood or something and paint that plywood a certain color. That way there's bright, vibrant colors shining through. I don't know, but just another idea of this one here. I was probably at about probably about $125 when I bought all the material and everything. But there again, I'll show you a few images from this too, so it kind of makes a little bit of sense. There, I fell off the background just to show you why that 45-degree wall there is imperative to have, to kind of give me a backstop to shoot back into. And here, look, there's a couple more of those barrels that I drug in from that guy's place. Some old telephones that I got from the thrift store. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but hey, we're photographers. There's a lot of things we do make a lot of sense. As long as it's making you money and you're enjoying it and you're learning from it and your clients are liking it, then it doesn't matter. And here again, bright time of day, there again, that's why that 45-degree wall is very, very helpful, very helpful. Now check this one out. All right, everyone has a junkyard in their area. Everybody. It doesn't matter where you are. There has to be a junkyard around somewhere. Now, I used to photograph at this junkyard right down the road. I gained permission, and I became friends with the owner. Now, I will tell you that he recently got out of prison for harboring weapons of mass destruction, as well as possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, I had to know how to approach this guy, kind of get on his level, if you will. But he loves me, and I like him. I pay him attention when I go out there. I kind of feed his ego a little bit. Well, I saw this truck out there one day, and I said, "Hey, Scott, is there any way that that you would allow me to borrow that truck for the summer?" And he said, "Yeah, that's fine. Where do you want it?" Told him where I wanted it. He actually sent one of his drivers over here with it on the back of his record truck, dropped it into place, and I'm using this thing all summer for nothing. I'm not saying that you can do that exact same thing, but you can go to a junkyard and buy these old trucks for next to nothing, have them shipped into where you are, and when you're done with it, you can sell it for scrap metal and normally get $200 or $300 back out of it. So this is the first image, the first session I ever used this truck. But look at the textures inside. You know, you brush off the seat, clean it up inside. A little quick tip here: be careful. Make sure there's no yellow jacket's nest up in the roof. Definitely don't want to put a kid in there and get him all stung up with that. Probably going to ruin the photo session if I had to guess. But here's some of the images from that. And here again, girl on the front, guy on the top. Just using this thing that however I want to, and with this additive lighting, I throw this old beat-up truck out here back behind the studio, and I've got an instant prop that I can work with. It's not record-breaking, but I just want to give you an idea that go to a local junkyard. Don't go to an individual, because an individual is going to think that that truck is worth about $2,000 when it's really worthless. So check out your local junkyard. Strike up a relationship with someone that works there. You know, hey, those guys get married too. May not be the type of wedding you want to shoot, but everybody has a purpose, so don't lose sight of that. So let's move forward here. Let's shift our shape to inside for a few minutes. Now, when you have a backdrop like this one that's in the background, I got so aggravated because a lot of times, unless you hang it at the exact perfect height, you know, the bottom of it's going to drape onto the floor. And you don't know what to do with that excess. You have to fold it backwards. You have to use one of those baseboards. And quite frankly, I wasn't a big fan of the baseboards. So what I've done is every single set in here that I use a backdrop for, I built a 10-foot wide by 10-foot long stage, if you will. And all it is 2x4s that you turn up on its side. Obviously nail those 4 together. That's your base. And I'll show you here in a second. Basically, that way, whenever you drop your backdrop, it falls down back behind the floor, and you don't have to worry about all the excess. It just kind of fits right up against there, very flush. So you never have to worry about folding your backdrop back and making sure that it's flush to the floor. You just roll with it. You don't ever have to worry about it. And I can slide other ones in its place and don't have to sit and fool with them forever. So 10 by 10 is what I base all mine on again, and that's because I want to be able to use it for families, full-length brides, everything. I don't want something that's 4 feet wide that I can only use for a newborn. I shoot a little bit of everything. So let's walk through this here. First things first, always make sure that your square that you're building is flush. Use a carpenter's square, obviously, to make sure your corners are set before you nail it into place. Once you get all 4 corners nailed into place, that's when you're going to start your bracing. So I start bracing, and you know, you cut those to fit right inside, and off you go. You're off to the races here. You brace it out so that people won't fall through the floor, obviously. And I do mine about 20 inches on center. That seems to be well enough that whenever I put the plywood on there, that it gives, you know, enough stability. So 20 inches on center is where I put my braces here, my floor joist, if you will. And then right down here at about 96 inches, which is where a piece of plywood would end up in the width here, or in the, you know, in the width of this image. I add an extra one in there because obviously you need something for that to hold on to, and you need another brace on the other side. And again, I know some of this stuff's going really quickly, but it will be available online that you can go back to as well. And we're always available for questions through Facebook and email, so keep that in track. So get all this done, and again, this is where you want to make sure that you leave just enough room to nail your other piece that's going to go up to fill your gap there. So another thing here that's really cool that I do is I just go get a carpet sample from somewhere, and I'll cut like a little diamond shape, like a home plate type thing here out of carpet, and I staple that to the bottom side of it. That way I don't have wood just rubbing up against my floor. I've got a nice soft carpet. If I ever need to push it around, I can just push it around without scratching up my floor. Had to kind of learn that the hard way. All right, so I've got my 2 sheets of OSB. I use 7/16 OSB plywood. And then if you notice on the right-hand side, I need more plywood there. Well, there is where you just cut a 2-foot strip, and you nail that down, and you're halfway there. You're more than halfway there. Now, I go to Lowe's or Home Depot, wherever you may choose, and this particular set here, I use the whitewash paneling. It's just cheap paneling. It's like $18 a sheet, but it photographs just like whitewashed hardwood floor. Your photographs are not going to know the difference, I promise. And I used white paneling nails. You can get those in the same section. Make sure you use the white paneling nails. And you can do this with like oak colored floor. They have stuff that's simulated to look like bricks. There's all sorts of things. And then, like I said, these are the ones I use, a little 16 gauge by 1 inch white nails. And I put those, every 8 or 10 inches or so. And then before you know it, you've got a whitewashed floor that actually photographs really, really, really pretty. And again, you can paint the edges. You can do whatever you want to. A lot of mine I'll paint them black just so it kind of disappears a little bit. But there's an idea on a floor. There it is finished, obviously. And it's like a stage that people can step up onto. And it's a way for me to keep everything contained to that one area, because I know that if I get outside of there, then obviously I'm falling off the background. I don't want to get too wide. And by being raised about 4 inches, it keeps other objects from, from the sides from being pushed onto that set. Now let's take it another step farther. Let's say that you've got some open space and you want to build a freestanding wall, like in the middle of your studio, or you want to build a wall to put up against your wall, if that makes sense, something that you're not going to tear up if you drill into your existing wall. So do this same concept just like you were going to build a floor. 10 by 10 wall. I do it the same exact way. Make sure your corners are square. Nail your wall joists in there, and then also here's some more of those carpet samples. Don't forget those. Tack those things in underneath the bottom of your wall. That way, whenever you stand it up, it's floating on that carpet sample instead of scratching up your floor. In my case, I have laminate floor. I don't care if it gets scratched, but you may want to look at that. And there you go. I space it out maybe every couple of feet. And again, you can get carpet samples from free. You go to a local carpet store, they'll give you all the remnants that you want there. Now, my particular place, I've got an open ceiling. So I had to put a brace on the side, run it up, and anchor it into the ceiling, which that's not very important to you guys. So this here is a 10 by 10 wall that you can build that can be freestanding, and I'll show you in a minute how you can utilize it to shoot on both sides of it. I'll give you some ideas here of what you can do to actually turn this into something. And again, this is how I braced mine into the ceiling. I use 2x4s, use carriage bolts, make a brace on either side, and then just run my 2x4 from my wall that I've extended up into there and nail it together. There you go on both sides. That way it kind of keeps it from falling down. I didn't want to run it floor to ceiling because I wanted air to be able to exchange over top. I didn't want to start making it hot on one side of the studio versus the other. And there you go. You just sheet it with plywood, and instead of just a backdrop, now you've got something that you can make into like a more permanent type set. And this is an idea that I threw together. I've seen this done before, but I must say I've never seen it done quite as clever as mine. So I'm bragging on myself a little bit. Actually, I just really like mine. The thrift store next door, they were getting rid of a bunch of old records. Kids these days, they don't even know what records are. I just tell them that they're big black CDs or something, and they say, really? Yeah, I said, yeah, you should see the CD player that goes in your car to play these things. But anyways, I had those leftover paneling nails, right? So I come over and I started cutting these things off. I'll use the front and the back. Some of them open up into like, panos. And I just started nailing them up. No particular order. I just wanted them all to be asymmetrical and just throw them up everywhere. And you can see it starts to kind of come together. There's no random order. And here, any outfit goes because there's such stark contrast that you don't know what to do here. So I tell people any outfit goes. So once you do that, then I wanted to build a floor. So I built the same thing that I did earlier, but I built a stage and I covered it in plywood. And then I took all the records that were in these things originally and I took all those out before I nailed them up. And I said, well, man, I need to do something with all these records. So I just threw them all over the floor, all over my stage. And if I would have just thrown them out on the floor without the stage, then they might tend to get scattered all around and get wider and wider and wider. This way it keeps me contained. And as you can see here, you see the backdrop as we're photographing with it. And here's another one. See the records on the floor. I went and got a couple of old TVs, some old record players. And a lot of times I've got a cool little Marshall amp that I put in here whenever I got babies, and I'll put the kids in there with a Marshall amp, and I've got a red guitar, and it works out really, really, really well. And again, 10 foot wide, 10 foot tall, that way you can use it on everything. I shoot full-length brides, families, newborns, seniors, everything. It's very versatile, very versatile. Families, see how you can side light it, and I bring the light in really, really low and let it just dust across the floor, and it lights up and catches highlights on those records. So really, really like that one. Again, pennies on the dollar. Not a lot of money invested there. Not a lot at all. So moving forward, here's another idea. Now, you cannot tell me that you can't find some rusted tin. And when I say tin, T-I-N. And this was from a barn. There was an old barn that some guys were going to tear down in my area here. And I happened to be riding by one day and saw this. And I said, oh, my goodness, look at this texture. Look at these colors. And I said, hey, man, while you guys are tearing this down, would you mind if I could help and not get in your way, but actually help deconstruct this and pull this roofing tin off? And they said, yeah, that's fine, man, whatever. They were just going to throw it away. So I saw the color in it, and I said, wait a minute. So I brought it back. I measured it out to 10-foot sections. I clamped it down, and I started cutting it. I wanted to cut the ends so that it was 10 foot tall. And then what did I do? On the back side of that wall that I just built for the record set, I've got another wall that's free, that's just waiting for something. So I'm going to put this rusted tin up on this wall here. Now, this is a piece of laminate floor that was left over from something else. Now, this was pretty key right here. I put a piece of laminate floor on the ground, just lay it on the ground and push it all the way up to the edge. That way, whenever I nail the roofing tin up, it's not actually touching the floor, because I don't want it to scratch my floor up. And plus, I want to be able to sneak a broom up underneath there if I need to. So it's only a 1/4 inch off the floor. So put that down first, then set your roofing tin on top of that, then screw it in or nail it in, and then pull the piece of flooring out and move on to the next section. Just like this right here. Just slip it right up underneath there, put your jagged edge on the bottom, and you're off to the races. Pull it out, move it down, and repeat. But check out a lot of these textures here. This is just nailing it up to that existing wall there. And looking back on it, you really don't even have to use the plywood if you don't want to, but plywood will cost you maybe, I think plywood's about 13 bucks a sheet now. I just like it because it adds a bit of rigidity to what I'm doing, makes it a lot more stable. So here's a finished image. And on the corners, what I did was I nailed the piece on the corners, or I screwed it in, and then I just physically grabbed the far edge of it and pulled it inward and bent it. So I put a bend in it to permanently just make it fold in like that. I went and got this couch cost me $28 from the thrift store. I drug it in, and that's a pretty cool set right there. A lot of times I'll bring in some old luggage that I've got. Man, you can bring in hay bales, any kind of thing like that. I use this a lot for my girls that come in that wear the white sundresses and the cowboy boots. It's inevitable. I'm in the South. Girls love to wear that stuff, and this works really well for that. So I'll show you. Let's see here. Yeah, this was before I got it up. I really liked that, but I needed something to fold out onto the edges. I found that anything you can do to bring the edges out towards you to kind of give you like a fan shape in there, it gives you another wall to shoot back into, and tends to really, really help. So let's move forward here. All right, what about doors? There are a lot of places that are being deconstructed now, places being torn down. You can go to Habitat for Humanity. You can check Craigslist, check your yard sales. People have old panel doors that were interior or even exterior doors from homes. This one happened to be in another house that they were tearing down, and I asked the guy there, I said, man, is there any way I can have these doors? He said, of course, they're all going to be thrown away anyways. So I had an idea. I brought these things back to the studio, and I went to Lowe's, and I bought these little pegs that you drive into stuff that you would put up underneath your chairs or table to keep it from damaging your floor. I did that to 3 doors. And then you can see here I used the one, they're like a 1/2 inch. You just nail them in with a hammer, super, super easy. They're made out of some sort of hard plastic material. Now picture this. I start with my middle door. I take the door on the right and I pull it in at like a 35-degree angle. And then I go up top and I just screw those 2 doors together. And then I do the same thing on the left-hand side. And by doing that, it will allow those doors to stand up by themselves. So the doors won't fall over. Here is, now I've since put an actual third door over there on the left-hand side. Now I went to Lowe's and I bought this, they make this metallic paint, and it's from Regent Metallics makes it. It's either Regent Metallics or it's Ralph Lauren, but you can get anything. You don't have to use metallic. I like the metallic paint. So I think it was $38 a gallon. I bought a $38 gallon paint. And I've got 3 doors that I drug in that were free. I painted those doors, and I added in a few things with it. Check this out. These peacock feathers, I got those. There's a lady in town that has a bunch of these peacocks, and I figured out that like 2 weeks out of the year, they drop all these really, really pretty feathers. So I just asked her if I could have some, and she said, I've got more peacock feathers than I know what to do with, so come get all you want. So I walked around and followed the peacocks around for a couple of days and got about 600 feathers. Put them in a vase and got it figured out. Some old encyclopedias that I got. Now, this is going to sound strange, but I actually dug these out of the trash can. Somebody threw them away, and dug these out of the trash can that was in front of my studio because I went to take the trash out and couldn't because there was 700 pounds of encyclopedias in there. But it's just an idea of some things that you can do that don't, again, they don't cost much. An old chair from another thrift store in town, and it just makes of a backdrop that has some dimension to it, that different ways that you light it can create different looks. Same thing here. Doesn't have to cost you a ton of money, but you know, maybe you draw characters on the doors. Maybe you paint them different colors. Maybe you leave them the same colors that they already are. And then the cool thing is after you get tired of them, you can repurpose them, turn them into something else, turn them the opposite way, add more to them, staple other things to them. Here again, this is my beautiful daughter when she was just a few weeks old with her hairy back, and thank goodness she has since ditched the hair, so nobody pick on her, or I will cause some bodily harm to you, and I can probably build a nice casket for you too. I'm just kidding. But anyways, another idea there. So let's shift gears here, and one more little image there, and check this out. Crystal curtains. All right, go to shopwildthings.com. shopwildthings.com. Now I'm going to tell you, be careful when you're typing that in. Might lead you to somewhere you don't want to go unless you get it exactly right. So make sure it's shopwildthings.com. You can buy these crystal curtains. They come, I think they're like 3.5, 4 feet wide, and they come like on this little rod up top. And all you do is just unravel them and hang them up. And on this one, this is the back side of another wall that I built in the studio here. And this particular one, I put sheetrock on it. I nailed sheetrock up. Actually, I screwed sheetrock to it because it's already kind of got like a gray, white, milky color to it. And then I use these little rugs from IKEA. It's kind of like the Flaccati rug, but they're a whole lot cheaper. That way, if they get messed up, you can just toss one out. I think they're like $39 for this pretty large size rug. And it's an idea that hit me. I want to go on the back side here, take those back down, and actually probably mix some paint with water, like some gray paint or something with water, dip a sponge down in it, go all the way up at the very top, press it against the top of the wall, and then squeeze it, and then let that paint water mixture just run down the wall, run all the way down the wall. That way, gives some flair, gives some change. So I'll probably do that once I get tired of this. You could paint that another color if you wanted to. But again, just an idea of things to use. I use this a lot with a ring light, and you can see in the background certain little crystals will just, if they're turned the right way, which they'll always be turned the right way, they will illuminate, and it's just another cheap way to do it. Again, those things are super, super, super cheap, very cheap. Now here's some more doors. Now these are more doors that I got out of another house that was being torn down. And don't tell me that you can't find this stuff, because I was one of those naysayers years ago that would sit in a seminar and say, well, I don't have this stuff in my town, and quite frankly, I think you're crazy. Some of you may be saying that about me, but I'm a living example that you can do this stuff, I promise. These old doors, look at the age of these things. They're aged to perfection. Like, most people pay hundreds of dollars to get stuff to look like that. And there are backdrops that you can buy that look like this stuff. But my clients have grown to understand and expect to have the real thing. And what I'm doing is I'm selling something that no one else in my area is doing. Everyone else is just using a backdrop. And here, I have the real thing, and instead of buying all this expensive stuff, I can bring it in, use it for a couple of years, and then I can just simply throw it away if I don't want it anymore. So I mix something very eclectic with something elegant, such as this couch right here. And the doors in the background, like there's an old screen door that I turned upside down. I think there's about 6 doors that run straight across here, and quite frankly, I just leaned them up against the wall. I didn't even screw those together. Didn't even worry about it. So again, just get your mind thinking. Start looking for stuff. I'm not saying that you become like a hoarder and you go out looking for random junk, but keeping your eyes open, and if you see something, don't be afraid to pull in and ask about it. But I will tell you this, don't tell people that you're a photographer and you're using it for photography, because all of a sudden their junk will suddenly become worth something. So be careful with that. Another thing, a chain link fence. All right, now why in the world would I use a chain link fence? Well, quite frankly, just because it's there. This is the gate leading into my prop shop in the back. And I had an idea one day. I said, you know what, let's throw some lights up behind somebody, open up the gates, have them hold the gate, and just see if we can use it. This is one of the first times I tested it, hence my building trailer in the background there. I know you guys think that's pretty sweet to have in the background, but hey, if it sits around long enough, we'll paint that thing and make a prop out of it too. But keep your mind open, and anything that's out there, mixed with the additive lighting that I teach, man, sky's the limit. The sun is screaming in behind her, but we're able to make a pretty cool image just because we've got a pretty cool subject to work with and something that made me think outside my comfort zone. Hey, grab this fence, pose with this fence, let's make it work. Here it is again on another day. I'm going back to this area because I know it works. Chain link fence. Why am I using a chain link fence? Just because it's there. And with the additive lighting, I can darken down the background, and these clients are loving this stuff. They're loving it. So fast forward here, a piano. You can go on Craigslist in the free section, and I guarantee you, I'd be willing to bet you right now, you could go to Craigslist in the free section and find infinite amounts of pianos. And what I did was I found this one on Craigslist, and I inquired about it, and the lady said, yep, it's free. The only trick is you have to move it. You get you and about 4 of your friends, and you guys head over one Saturday morning, pick this thing up, bring it back, put you some new wheels on it. You see up underneath the bottom, I've got like large industrial type wheels. That way you can move it around a lot easier. But what I did was I left mine out in the rain for about 3.5 months. Just leave it outside. Let it rain on it. It's not going to destroy it, but it's going to take that pretty finish and turn it into old, weathered-looking piano, like something that you've had for years and years and years. The wood, the veneer on it will start to crack off and crackle. And look right back behind here, too. You see that aged wood? That was from, follow me on this, this is pretty deep here. That wood was from the side of the house that was being torn down that I got the doors from. So I went over, deconstructed the wood piece by piece by piece. I built me one of those 10-foot by 10-foot walls, and I took that wood and reconstructed it back onto that 10 by 10 space. So now this looks like we're, inside of an old house or something. I use it for newborns. I use it for everything, and you'd be surprised at how many people come in that are some sort of musician or have some sort of musical tie, if you will. Got tons of brides that come in that, they played piano when they were younger, or kids that take piano lessons. There's always somebody that has a tie with it. So there again, just a few ideas, man, to get your mind going. And remember, you don't have to always buy these really expensive sets. There's tons of people out there that have resources that you can use to bring this stuff back. And listen, if you don't have a large studio, that's cool too. I utilize a lot of this stuff outdoors, even if you don't have a space outdoors. Maybe you find somebody that's got a corner of their lot that you can borrow, someone in town that's got something. There's something out there, and if you keep saying that there's nothing and I can't have this and I can't have that, then that's what you're always going to get. You do the same thing you always do, then you're going to get the same thing you always get. So I think today's a good day to just put your foot down and let's make a change and let's step in another direction and move towards the future and say, listen, I'm not going to accept things for the way they are. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make some stuff happen. I'm going to do it. So check this out. This is my newest edition here. Doesn't look like much now. Boy, I tell you, when the people driving through town saw this, they didn't know what I had going on. I just finally got the structure finished. I'm going to give you some advice here. If you're ever thinking of building a pole barn or a shed or whatever to use as a natural light studio that's outdoors, I'm going to share with you some success that I've had and some things looking back on that I would have changed already, and I just finished this thing. I built mine 36 foot long and 24 foot wide. And we used 8x8 posts in the ground. This was a real fiasco in my town because the building code enforcement is absolutely ridiculous. I had to spend $900 on building plans just to build a pole barn, basically, a non-habitated pole barn. So definitely check with your local regulations before you get all this stuff going. But let's fast forward here, this next picture. This is kind of like a side view. Now, look up top. If you're going to build a pole barn that's going to be open to the elements, like I said, we've put a concrete floor in it. And if you look on the left-hand side, you see there's like a 10-foot or 12-foot wide space, and then another 12-foot wide space, and another 12-foot wide space. Those are going to be like my shooting bays, if you will. I'm going to build a wall down through the middle, and I'm going to have 6 shooting bays that will be open to the elements. But look up at the roof. Look up at the top left-hand corner of that roof. Now, what I'm going to have to do now that it started raining, is I'm going to have to build a little hip roof, if you will, like a roof that comes off of that's angled down at like a 30-degree angle that comes out about 6 foot wide and then ties back into those posts. The reason I'm going to have to do that is because whenever it rains, there's a little bit of rainwater that gets in on the floor, and I could see that could cause some problems. Another bit of advice, if you're ever going to do something like this, do like I did. You want the concrete to be crowned in the center. So in other words, if it rains and rainwater gets in, you don't want the rainwater to just sit there. So in the middle of this thing, the concrete is actually 2 inches higher there than it is all the way out on the edge. So when you pour water on it, the water it all leaks out and goes back outside. Definitely want to remember that. So pay attention to that. If you ever have any questions about any of this stuff, like I said, anybody that knows myself and my staff, they know that we are some of the most giving people that you'll ever meet, and we want to help each one of you guys. So if anything we can ever help you with, definitely don't ever hesitate. Twitter, Facebook, our workshops page, our website, anywhere that you want to get in touch with us, just make it happen, and we will help each one of you guys to the bitter end. Oh, hey, a little side note, check this out. Look in the right-hand corner of your screen. You see all those televisions stacked up? I went to a recycling place where people drop off all this old stuff, and I asked the guy if I could have a bunch of these, and he gave me 2 trailer loads of TVs that I brought back, and that's like half of the first trailer load. I'm building a set out of old televisions I'm stacking up. Just another thought, man. Just another thought. So pay attention to everything. Keep in mind too, we have workshops that we teach here in the studio, and we're all over the place all the time. We do extensive workshops here in the studio, 2-day hands-on workshops. And actually, PhotoBiz, they normally stop down and check us out and help us out a little bit with that too. So thanks again to that, for them. Another thing we wanted to do for you guys is on our workshops page, we've got all kinds of very highly educational products that aren't just a gimmick, something to throw out there that we just make money on. All of our products are very fairly priced. It's really just enough to cover the material. So we've got a 20% discount that we're going to offer to you guys through PhotoBiz. It's available until July 17th. So do yourself a favor. We've got a lot of really informational stuff on there that can be very beneficial to you. So swing by, check out the workshops page, Blair Phillips Workshops.com, and we're going to extend that 20% off discount to you guys. Just use that discount code PhotoBizzer. And again, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to contact us through Facebook or email. But again, I hope some of this has been pretty helpful, and I look forward to doing this again because I'm in the process now of probably, I think at last count I had 16 new sets that I had slated to be built, which I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do it, but we'll have to work it out. So stay in touch. I'd like to do another one of these with PhotoBiz to bring you guys a lot of new ideas as well. So I appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to some of the questions that you may have. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Danny here, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you very much, Blair. Thank you so much for putting together such a great presentation for everybody, and thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. So, like you mentioned, we are going to jump right into question and answer time. So, guys, you can go ahead and send your questions over via the chat tool. I'm just going to kind of jump into them right here and work my way down. So, first question, Blair, comes from Sherry, wanting to know, how big is your fence in space? And I believe they're referring to behind the studio.
Yeah, and Sherry, you know what? I should know that. I'm going to guess that my fenced-in area, it's not huge, but I'm utilizing it to like every single inch of it. I would guess that it is probably about 55 foot long and about 80 feet wide. And I had to put barbed wire at the top because I'm in the middle of town, and you know, once I start building all this stuff and you know, bringing in stuff, people are going to want to, they're going to want to get in and take some of it. People are crazy these days. So yeah, so that's the size that I've got. You know, it doesn't have to be huge. Utilize what you've got.
Awesome. The next question comes in from Connie, wanting to know, where did you get the awesome silver couch?
Yeah, Connie, that came from IVG, so I as in Ivan, and VGstores.com. IVGstores.com. And those things are, I've got two of them actually, and I've got 2 chairs that go with it, and they're not super expensive. I think one of those couches was like $700 maybe, which for what it is really not that bad.
Awesome. And this question's come in a few times about the records. And are they attached to the floor? How are they laid there? Do people stand on them, lay on them?
Good question. The records are not glued to the floor. Reason being, every once in a while a girl will step on it with their heel and get it in the perfect position, and it'll crack one of the records. All right, it's no big deal. I just pick it up, throw it away, throw another one in its place. Now, before, when I glued them down, I did glue them down to start with, and then I changed it, because whenever it would get broken, you'd have to take something like scrape the glue off, because half the record would be stuck, half of it wouldn't. So I just throw them down and let them all just kind of move around. So hopefully that helps. And yes, I put furniture on top of them, you know, chairs, let people sit in chairs. I would say once every couple of months I might have one record that breaks.
Awesome. Here's a good question. Comes from Denise. She joined in a little bit later on, and she was looking at the photos and wanted to know, what kind of additional lighting are you using to get, you know, the results that you were achieving in your pictures, and what tools were you using to achieve them?
Yeah, good question. The lighting that I use Westcott lighting products. And again, I use Westcott because they are a huge promoter in giving back to our industry. So I recently just switched, actually. What I had was working fine, but again, man, I'm just real big on our industry, so I want to support people that give back. So I use Westcott. I use their Photo Plus lights and the Studio Plus lights, and they're really inexpensive for what they are. It's a 400-watt light, and I use their medium softbox. I think it's a 16 by 22. Don't hold me to that. I can get you the information if you really need it. And I use my light cart, the LR02. If you go to our workshops page and you look for the LR02, it's actually a light cart that we build and fabricate here, and we've probably sold over 200 of them nationwide. So go on and check that out. But that's what I'm using, and it allows me to have plenty of power during the day to do anything that I want to do. Anything.
Awesome. And thank you again for the answer, Blair. So I'm going to grab a couple more questions here.
Yeah.
And it looks like we got one that just came in from Alan. What size are the vent pipe boots?
Those are actually 6 inches. Those are 6 inches. I think a lot of them are like 2 to 2 1/4. These are old school ones, and they're actually 6 inches. You could use the smaller ones if you could find them, but the ones that you're going to find nowadays are going to be made out of PVC or some sort of a like MEK plastic. Those are actually galvanized, so those are kind of hard to come by.
Cool. That's a good answer. So hopefully that helps you out with that question. And let's see what other questions we have inside of here. All right. And all right. I think we've gotten a couple questions here about the actual indoor studio that you're having. So just general size, and if it's one open room, and I'll just throw in my comment. I know you can answer on the size that you're definitely utilizing every bit of square feet in that room.
No doubt, man. Yeah, we've got our shooting area is probably, I'm going to say it's about 2,000 square feet. And what I've done, it's a big open room, but as soon as you walk in on the far right-hand wall, I've got, let's see, I've got 6 or 7 sets that are all like side by side by side by side that run down the course of the wall. When you get down to the end, if you turn around, come back up through the middle of the room, I've got about 6 sets that are in the middle of the room. And then if you go right on the other side of those sets, I've got 6 or 7 more sets on the back side of those. And then to the far left-hand side of the wall, I've got about 6 or 7 sets that run down the side there. So it's all one big open area, but I've built those little walls in the middle, you know, freestanding walls, just to kind of quadrant it off, and I've used, like Danny said, I use every square inch of it. And if it's one of those things that if it can help you guys, you know, if anybody's interested in seeing that, you know, I can make that available for you to give you some ideas on how to set up your space, or at least how I did it. Contact us through Facebook. We'll be glad to get that for you.
Great. And this question comes in from Amanda. Blair, do your clients pick the sets for you, or do you do that? Or do you recommend one? Does that probably generally work?
Yeah, I think the thing, Amanda, about having such diversity is my clients they've grown to kind of trust my judgment, and you know, they come in now and they just say, all right, Blair, we're here to get pictures made, so whatever it is that you do, you do it. Now I will ask them, you know, hey, do you have anything in particular that we didn't use that you really, you know, really want to use? And most of the time they'll say, no, I think you pretty much covered it. But by having such diversity, what I do, Amanda, is when people come in, I'll tell them, look, lay out all of your outfits. Lay them all out, and I want to look at them. They lay them all out, and I'll go into the dressing room, and I'll say, okay, listen here, Mr. John Paul III. You're going to start off in this outfit here. Because in my mind, I can look at those colors, and I know in the back what is going to work with that outfit. So I'll go ahead back there, turn the lights on while they're changing, get everything ready, and then we'll just repeat that process all the way throughout their outfit changes. So hopefully that helps you out.
Awesome. Great answer, Blair. All right, so a bunch of questions just rolled in here, so I'm going to try and sort through them real quickly before we wrap everything up here. And guys, if I don't get a chance to get to your questions, I do apologize. Like Blair mentioned, Blair himself and his whole staff are great about getting back to questions that come in via email or Facebook. So don't hesitate to go over and check out the workshops page on Facebook and leave them a note there if we don't get to your question. All right, so let's well, this is a good question from Sarah. She wants to know, do you have any advice on how to incorporate these kinds of sets into a studio that used to be a dining room? So I guess the question is, she's mentioning she's very limited on space, so maybe doing some kind of mobile stuff would be cool, that she can move around.
Yeah, you know what? That would be one of those things, like I would definitely be willing to do this for you. What would be good, sweetie, is if you could take some images of your space, and if you could email those to me, maybe we could set something up to where, you know, I could talk with you on the phone with those pictures in front of me, and I can give you some ideas once I see your space, because I've actually built some frames here in the studio with rollers on them that I can move backdrops around on, and that I've also designed and successfully used a cable system that I built from scratch out of just items I bought at Lowe's that was really, really helpful in my other studio that I could slide backdrops in and out of place on. And it's really hard to explain to you, but if you want to email me your space, I will be glad to to consult with you and see what I can do to help you out on that.
Well, great. She said that would be amazing, so I guess you should expect an email coming in there soon, Blair. And let me see if I can grab in another question here before we wrap things up. And a couple people did join a little bit later and are asking if they can review stuff. And guys, we will have the video online on our YouTube channel, and I know Blair will repost it on their Facebook as well. So just give us about up to 48 hours to get that video processed and put online. We'll have it online for you as well. So let's see what last couple questions we can get right inside of here. And this question just comes in from Dawn Blair, and I saw a couple other questions when you mentioned the LR02. Really just what comes included with it and how they're going to be using it. And I've seen this awesome cart in person and how powerful it is, but if you want to go in a little bit more details at what's included with it, and they can always check out the workshops page.
Yeah, if you go to the workshops page and you pull it up and you look at it, basically the cart, what you see is what you get. It comes with a battery box that's mounted on the bottom, and that is where you would put your battery and your inverter. If you need help with any of that stuff too, man, we can show you exactly what we use, and I can even tell you how we use it to get you well on your way. But the cart comes as seen. If you look at the bottom of the cart, there's a battery box. You put your battery and your inverter in there, and then there's a shelf that's built with two little tabs at the top that you can connect you put your camera bag, so you've got all your lenses, everything that you need is right there. And then the handle, you pull this little pin out, and the handle extends up. It extends all the way up, and that's what you mount your studio light to, your studio strobe. You mount that with your softbox onto that light. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to push all this stuff around anywhere you want to go outside with just one hand. And it acts as a light stand. Basically, when you just push it into place, stand it up, and the weight of your battery and your inverter counterbalance on the bottom and keep it from knocking over or blowing around. And I roll this thing around to every single wedding I do, every single session that I do this outside. I could not imagine going out and shooting it without the lighting that I use because it's so simple. I just meter for the sky, I set my lights accordingly, and it is so simple, so simple. And we've got the Senior Shoot 101 DVD. It's a 2-hour comprehensive DVD that goes into great detail on exactly how we use it. And I guarantee you that you watch that 2-hour long DVD and you will be lighting like a pro after that 2 hours. And the books are really helpful too. The Seniors at Rock book and the Weddings at Rock book, we've got very, very, very illustrative details on all that stuff. So those carts, they do come in custom colors. Like if you wanted one powder coated in a certain color, got that available too. If you want to trick it out, make it look kind of wild and flare, to your style, that's available too. So just stay in touch if we can help you any more on any of that stuff as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that detailed answer, Blair. And thank you, everyone, for your great questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up right now. So like I mentioned before, a recording of today's webinar is going to be posted on the PhotoBiz YouTube channel at youtube.com/PhotoBiz. So be sure to head over there and click on the subscribe button to our channel. That way you'll be updated whenever we have the video online. And be also to check out our blog. We have the full July webinar playlist up to date so you can see what's coming up. So thank you again, Blair.
Thank you, man. And again, guys, when you see PhotoBiz out at these events, make sure you show them some love because, again, they are one of the leaders in giving back to our industry and keeping it strong. So, again, thank you to PhotoBiz for taking the time to put all this stuff together, and thank all of you guys out there for taking your time to tune in, and we look forward to being able to continue with this great partnership with PhotoBiz and do more of these in the future for you guys.
Well, thanks again, Blair. All right, everybody, that's going to conclude this episode of PhotoBiz Live. I hope everybody has a great day.